Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the inaugural installment of this. This is, in fact, a Red Pill universe. My name is Reggie, and I'm a dissenting mind. I'm going to cut right to the chase. I never in a million of years thought I would ever be here making a video about this type of thing. But it has come to this. I have been inspired by many recent conversations, many recent experiences to do my part. I really do believe that I have a responsibility to help engage in this conversation and push things forward. So, in that regard, I will move right to the chase. As it seems right now, I'm sure many and most of you have noticed that there is an incredible focus from some people to push the narrative of racism and white supremacy, and to push the narrative in a manner as if racism and white supremacy are the only things afoot that push things forward, that influence decisions, really pretty much globally. Essentially, this is what I'm gathering from the narrative and the way it's being pushed. Obviously, as a dissenting mind, I am not quite convinced. Now, let's establish a baseline. As far as racism goes, I'm not here to debate racism. I'm not here to tell you racism does not exist. It's pretty well understood that part of the human condition, us as animals, we are very, very tribalistic, and most times we prefer our own tribe. That condition has produced some side effects. I believe one of them is racism. So, okay, racism. I'm not going to refute that. We're not going to try to shout that down or anything, man. Okay. But I think the more contentious issue is white supremacy. I don't think that I'm thoroughly convinced of the narrative, which is that white supremacy is the driving force of every major decision in this country since its inception. I cannot tell you that I am convinced of this narrative due to the lack of evidence that has been, or rather, just the information that I have studied out and have been able to see, and I'm not there. I can't get there yet. Now, let me also dispel. I am not a stupid person. I am not without logic. I'm not illogical and irrational. I'm not overly emotional about stuff. When it comes to this, I think this is actually a very, very, very intriguing conversation, and it is one that we must have. You cannot be afraid of this conversation, but even more importantly, you cannot be afraid of the person who disagrees with you. Now, I've been called a lot of names for disagreeing. That's one of the main things that spurred this on to me, man. It's just some recent conversations where I'm not allowed to disagree. I'm not allowed to say I'm not convinced. That makes me a sellout, guys. That makes me a coon. That makes me all sorts of names, man. Attacks on my children. People are insulting my children. I feel sorry for your kids because they have to grow up with a person like. Just asking a question, man. So anyway, I'll move past that and let's get to the meat of this. Okay, so many people many people saw the Revolt Summit that was held. Candace Owens, T.I., Killer Mike. The other three people were very inconsequential to me. I didn't get their names. I don't recall them. They were very forgettable. But some things that the narrative, you can't escape that the narrative of white supremacy and racism was absolutely a driving narrative for certain people up there. Here's my question. If you are a person who is pushing this narrative right now, if you're a person who posts, you post things on your Facebook, your Instagram, they're racially charged. This is racism. This isn't da 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 da. If you comment on these things and continue to push this narrative, I have to know, what is your end game? What would a victory over these things be? And what would it look like to society in whole? How would we know we have arrived at victory over white supremacy and racism to a degree? How would we know that these things have been defeated in our society? Have you thought this through? Do you have an answer for that question? I'll give you the reason why I'd like to know. Here's why. So, of course, this conversation generally goes back to slavery. Okay, well, right around the time that the rest of the world was abolishing slavery, so did America. Go figure. That's weird. So they don't do that anymore. All right, but that's not a victory, or that's not enough of a victory. That, but that win isn't a total win, as we come to understand, because obviously we went through a period of Jim Crow. We went through a period where they found new ways to disadvantage black people. No doubt about it, can't be argued, okay? But they don't do that anymore. They did away with that. They said that was unfair, you can't do that. So, but that's a W, but not a victory, I guess, right? Okay, so then the issue of, and I'm just shrinking issues. I know there are a plethora of issues that we can bring up in this, but I'm just kind of shrinking the ones that kind of were made into like whole movements and things like that. So we had, of course, we had civil rights and not segregation, but geez, how is that escaping me? But we wanted inclusion. We wanted to no longer be segregated. We wanted to use the same bathrooms and eat at the same restaurants and use same water fountains, as well as we wanted to have our human rights recognized. These were important things. These were very important things to get. Well, we got them. We got our civil rights. You can exercise your rights just as any American person can exercise them. And we are no longer segregated in our communities. We can live amongst white people, send our kids to their schools, eat in the same restaurants. These things are done away with. It's a pretty big W. But apparently to you folks, it's not a victory. Okay. So now the conversation, it seems more recently, more modern now, is, well, hell, I'm even skipping over. We had affirmative action. We had that. Remember when we thought we weren't getting a fair shake? And we still don't feel, in many cases, we feel like we don't get fair shakes in our career paths. I'll be honest, I've never really felt that racism was the reason I didn't get a job or anything like that. But that doesn't mean there aren't people who don't feel that way, who do feel like they have been discriminated against like that. I'm not going to deny that. But in general and in large, you are free to pursue whatever career, especially if you have the credentials, you're likely to be able to pursue your career and attain affluence. So we got that. It's a W, but not a victory, okay? And so now getting back to now, the argument seems to be reparations. Okay. Reparations isn't a new thing. That's not something we'd just be pulling out of a hat. People have been given reparations before. So I can't say I would be against reparations of the descendants of slaves getting some kind of payback or to represent some kind of justice for our people in that manner. Whether it be they dissolve credit debt or give us some money or something, whatever. Okay, great. But would that be a victory? For all of you folks that are pushing white supremacy and racism all day, every day, it's the only thing that counts. Would then, after we have gathered this plethora of W's, would it actually be a victory? Or after you get reparations, are you going after something else? And after that, what else? And what else? Is this just a never-ending cycle of pointing fingers and complaining and saying, give me stuff? Now that may sound a little harsh, but that's in from my perspective on this, man. I feel like people that are pushing this narrative have two really big issues. Is that I think if you aren't defining, you first and foremost, you have to be able to define to me, when exactly am I experiencing white supremacy, or when am I experiencing some person who's just a dick, or just I got a bad situation, I got a bad luck of the draw, or or how do I know when it's white supremacy and not something else? I haven't been able to get a clear answer on that. Um, and second is well, how do I know when I'm experiencing it? And two, I think there's a lot of limited experiences for people pushing this narrative. I've had the privilege to travel around the globe via the military. I visited some very beautiful places and met some very beautiful people, man. And I just won't accept a narrative that says that all people are one way about something, in unless that narrative is that all people are doing their best to take care of the things and the people they love and are trying to have nice things. That would be a narrative, a stereotype narrative of all people that I would accept, because I've met a lot of people. So anyway, um, I don't want this to go on too long. Again, this is just an inaugural thing to kind of set the tone for where we want to go with these issues, man. We only want to have a conversation about it, man. It's not, I don't propose that I know everything. I don't propose that anyone who's pushing this narrative is stupid or you're so dumb. Nah, you might have a great point. You might have a great set of points to make. But I do unfortunately think that you, the person with a lot of great points and facts, might be getting pushed away and pushed to the side. And we're not hearing your very good arguments because there are other people who are shouting just louder than you and yelling and screaming about white supremacy and racism, but they're not giving us any substance. This isn't, again, I absolutely want to encourage comments. I want to encourage conversations. We're going to have this thing open up to where hopefully we can do some live streams on this to have people be able to call in and speak live. I'm going to absolutely have a few of my friends and other people, some people that I don't know so well, come into the conversation. We're going to talk live about this thing. We're going to have some people. If I'm crazy, I want them to talk me off the ledge. I don't want to jump to my doom on something stupid. If white supremacy is something that I absolutely should be concerned about, I want to make sure I am. If it's the driving force behind my entire life up to this point, I'd like to know that. I'd like to know about that, and I'd like to understand what if anything can be done about that. So again, my major thing about this, for anyone who's pushing this narrative, please think about this. What is your end game? What does a victory look like? How will we know when we have absolutely defeated white supremacy? What does that look like to the world? What does it look like to our culture and society? If you cannot answer these questions tangibly, logically, with some kind of reason, with some kind of sensible answers, guys, and I'm telling you, you need to go back to the drawing board. That's all. Just go back to the drawing board, think through it a little more, do a little more research, show us some examples of what you're talking about, all that kind of good stuff. But I'm not the enemy, man. I'm not the enemy because I disagree. I'm not the enemy because I'm not sure. I'm not the enemy because you haven't sold me on your narrative yet. So anyway, man, I'm gonna end this one here. Um, as always, I'm gonna make this open for comment. I want you to comment. I want you to have your opinion. I want you to feel comfortable voicing your opinion here on this platform with me in the Dissenting Mind. I won't judge you. I won't judge you for having a thought, man. I'm not going to do that. But I will ask questions. um, so, anyway, man, this is a Red Pill Universe. My name is Reggie, and I'm a Dissenting Mind. Peace.